The strange moment. You fall asleep. Have you ever noticed something strange? You can remember getting into bed. You can remember closing your eyes. You can remember the thoughts that were running through your mind, but you can almost never remember the exact moment you fall asleep. Think about that. You remember being awake, and you remember waking up, but the moment in between seems to disappear. Every single night, your brain performs one of the most fascinating transitions in human experience, and yet most people never witness it. Not because it is hidden, not because it happens too quickly, but because the moment you become aware of it, it is already gone. Tonight, we are going to slow that journey down, not to stop sleep, not to force it, just to notice it, because something unusual happens in the final minutes before sleep. And once you notice it, you may never think about sleeping quite the same way again. Right now, your mind is active, thoughts are appearing, memories are surfacing, small distractions are pulling your attention in different directions. This is what being awake feels like, but sleep does not arrive all at once. It arrives quietly, one small change at a time. The first thing to change is your attention. The sounds around you become less important. The room begins to fade into the background. Your thoughts move closer to the center of your awareness. A memory appears, then disappears. A random idea forms, then drifts away. You may notice that thoughts become harder to control, not because something is wrong, but because your brain is beginning to let go. This is the beginning of the transition, the point where the waking mind slowly starts to loosen its grip on reality. As sleep moves closer, something even stranger begins to happen. Time starts to feel different. A few minutes can feel like seconds, and sometimes a few seconds can feel much longer. The mind becomes less interested in measuring time. Thoughts lose their sharp edges. One idea blends into another. The boundaries between memory, imagination, and reality begin to soften. This is why the final minutes before sleep can feel so mysterious. You are still awake, yet part of your mind has already started the journey, and without realizing it, you are moving toward a state that every human experiences, but very few ever observe. The final minutes before sleep are not empty. They are a transition, a hidden doorway between two completely different worlds, and every night, you pass through it. At some point, you may begin to notice another change. It happens so quietly that most people never realize it is happening. Your sense of time begins to shift. A few minutes pass, but they do not feel like a few minutes. Sometimes they feel shorter, sometimes they feel longer. The closer you move toward sleep, the less interested your brain becomes in tracking time. This is one reason why the transition into sleep feels so mysterious. When you are fully awake, your mind is constantly measuring sounds, measuring movement, measuring time. But as sleep approaches, those systems begin to relax. The clock continues to move, yet your awareness of it slowly fades. This is why you can close your eyes for what feels like a moment, and suddenly discover that an hour has passed, or perhaps only a few minutes. The difference becomes harder to notice. The boundaries begin to blur, and that blurring is a sign that sleep is getting closer. Now pay attention to your thoughts, not what they mean, just how they behave. You may notice that they are becoming less organized. One thought leads to another, then another, sometimes without any clear connection. A memory becomes an idea becomes an image becomes something completely different, and somehow it all feels normal. This is one of the most fascinating parts of the journey into sleep. Your brain is becoming more creative, more associative, less concerned with logic. The rules that guide waking thought begin to loosen. This is why strange ideas often appear before sleep. Ideas that seem perfectly reasonable in the moment, yet unusual when you think about them later. You are not dreaming yet, but you are moving closer to the world where dreams begin, and your mind is already preparing for the transition. How they behave. You may notice that they are becoming less organized. One thought leads to another, then another, sometimes without any clear connection. A memory becomes an idea becomes an image becomes something completely different, and somehow it all feels normal. This is one of the most fascinating parts of the journey into sleep. Your brain is becoming more creative, more associative, less concerned with logic. The rules that guide waking thought begin to loosen. This is why strange ideas often appear before sleep. Ideas that seem perfectly reasonable in the moment, yet unusual when you think about them later. You are not dreaming yet, but you are moving closer to the world where dreams begin, and your mind is already preparing for the transition. And perhaps that is what makes sleep so fascinating. Every night, we experience one of the strangest transitions in human life. We leave behind the world we know. The sounds around us become distant. The thoughts we were holding on to begin to fade. And slowly, without effort, awareness gives way to something else. A different state, a different experience, a different world. Most of the time, we move through this process without noticing, but tonight, you paused long enough to observe it. You noticed the changing thoughts, the shifting sense of time, the gradual release of attention, the small signs that sleep was drawing closer. And maybe, the next time you find yourself lying awake at night, you'll remember this moment, not to force sleep, not to chase it, but simply to appreciate the strange journey. For now, allow yourself to relax, let your thoughts drift where they wish, and let sleep arrive in its own time. Good night.